to my Mexican kitchen here in Switzerland. Today's recipe includes coffee, and as you can see in my house, we are coffee addicts. We really love coffee. That's probably why we're so hyper. But going back to the recipe, it's a coffee Carlota, which is it's a Mexican coffee pie, Mexican style coffee pie. Maybe you've seen my lemon Carlota video. If you haven't, you should. It's super yummy, especially now with spring and the flowers and the sunshine. One wants fresh desserts. But the best part of this recipe is you don't need an oven, you don't need a mixer, and sometimes that's a comment that I get from people, oh, I don't have an oven, can you share recipes that don't need an oven? So this one's for you guys. I hope you enjoy making this yummy dessert with me. The ingredients you need to prepare your coffee Carlota are Maria cookies. I can't give you an exact amount because that depends on your mold, the size you're using, if it's a square mold, if it's a round mold. But you're going to need about 2 packages, and my packages are each 200 grams. You also need 12 grams of instant coffee. The equivalent is 4 tablespoons. 7 grams of cacao powder. The equivalent is 1 tablespoon. 1/4 cup of boiling water. 1/4 cup of cold water. 60 grams of sugar. The equivalent is 1/4 cup. 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 500 grams of natural yogurt, the equivalent is 2 cups, 21 grams of natural jello, the equivalent is 2.5 tablespoons. By natural, I mean no flavor at all, the one that you would use to make other flavored jellos. 3 cream cheese blocks, the total would be 600 grams. 1 can of condensed milk, mine is 397 grams. 1 can of evaporated milk, again mine is 410 grams. Okay, so to start, we're going to put in 2 separate bowls our water. In the one where the 1/4 of a super really cold water goes, you're going to hydrate your natural jello. The natural jello is powder, it's the jello without flavor, and once you hydrate it, it's going to get solid. So once it's solid, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our microwave, and we're going to heat it about, I can't tell you how long because each microwave has a different heat setting. I don't know which heat setting you guys have on yours, but do it for short periods of time, like 10 seconds, you stir, and then until you finish completely melting your jello. Once it's melted, you leave that aside. And meanwhile, in the other bowl, the one with the super hot water, we're going to add our instant coffee and our cocoa powder, and we're going to whisk it until it's fully dissolved in there. Okay, so our natural jello is solid. For those of you who have never used jello before, this is what happens when you hydrate it with water, the powder. It gets solid, you can flip over the plate and nothing is gonna fall out. So this I'm going to dissolve in the microwave last because I want it to be liquidy before I put it into my blender. So this will go in last. What we're going to do is in a blender, mine has a big capacity of 72 ounces or 2.1 liters, which means I can fit all my ingredients in it. Some blenders are smaller, so you can just divide the portions, blend, and then when you pour it out, we're going to pour it out into a big bowl. You can just give it a whisk so all the things mix in well. In the blender, we're going to add the evaporated milk, the condensed milk, the cream cheese, the natural yogurt, the sugar, the vanilla extract, the coffee and cocoa liquid, and last but not least, the natural jello that we dissolved. We're going to process that until it's a nice smooth cream, and then we'll set it aside in a bowl. Okay, so our coffee cream is over here, and the cookies are on a plate, so I'm ready to assemble our coffee Carlota. I'm going to be using a cake form that has a spring so that I can present my Carlota kind of like a cake. If you've seen the lemon Carlota video, it's the same way. I like how it looks, the presentation in the cake form. But often when you're visiting people in Mexico in houses and they give you this dessert, it's often in one of these glass molds or even a Tupperware, whatever you have you can use. It's going to go into the refrigerator, so there's no point spending on a form you don't have already at home. You can even use a stainless steel pan if it's okay to cut with it, or cut into it, sorry. Anything you have that works for cutting and keeping in the fridge. That being said, since I'm using this and I'm going to take it out of the mold, I really want it to come out in one piece. So to really make sure, I put some baking paper in between the bottom part of the mold and the ring part. and then I closed it shut obviously with the spring, and then I just greased it a bit. You can use spray, or you can use a bit of melted butter or oil, and just with a napkin really rub it in so it's all over. You don't need too much oil. And then after that, what you're going to do is with the ladle, you're just going to pour in a bit of the cream in here. Cover the bottom fully. You don't need too much. It's just going to be the glue between the first cookies and your mold. Once you did that, you're going to align your cookies to cover the bottom part fully. This is basically like a sweet lasagna. So you have to layer cookies, cream, cookies, cream, cookies, cream, until you've reached the top. The very last layer has to be cream and mold. That's basically it. It's super easy to assemble. Okay, so we finished putting or assembling our Carlota. I covered it with some aluminum foil. You can cover it with plastic film, or those really cool reusable silicone wrap thingies that they have now that you just wash and reuse. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our refrigerator for a lot of hours. We want it to get like what jello does, that it gets more solid. So that can be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to leaving it overnight. You just have to check that your liquid part is set, that it's more solid before you take it out of the mold if you're using one like mine, or in a different case. If it's going to be in one of these molds that you don't scoop it out, then it's fine. It doesn't have to be super solid, but in my case, it's very important that it is. Okay, so we are done. As you saw, I decorated this in a couple of minutes, super fast. You just need a few creative ideas. Use whatever you have in your house. I used some stencils, and I put some coffee beans in a coffee cup, and then I put chocolate covered coffee beans. You can put some grated chocolate, some crushed nuts, fruit that you may have growing around, seasonal fruit like strawberries or any kind of berry. It's up to you what you want to put on top to decorate it. Often when you flip it over, the bottom part is fine to use as your top. It's often that's the case. But let's say you want to flip it over and keep the top that you're actually seeing on your cake pan, that you want that to be your top part. You're going to need to flip it over twice. So in that case, what I would recommend is when you're putting together your Carlota, don't finish using all your coffee cream. You can leave some aside. You put your Carlota in the fridge for, let's say, 2 hours. Once it's a bit more solid, you can pour in the rest of the coffee cream, and like that you're going to have a thick coat of the coffee cream on the top, which will make it look prettier. But otherwise, just flipping it over once, it'll still be nice, especially if you decorate it. You can't see any of the little lines that are usually in the cake pans, but it's super easy. And another thing, I usually, in the beginning of the video, I was showing you guys the coffee machines in our house, in our kitchen, because we love coffee. We drink a lot of coffee. And this recipe, we usually make it using espresso shots. We usually use 2 because the princess cups are usually you don't fill it up for an espresso. It's usually about 3/4 or even less. So that 2 shots is it's a really good amount to make a nice coffee pie. The only thing is, talking with friends, they often tell me, we don't have machines like yours. We just use instant coffee. So I thought it would be a good option to show you guys the recipe with some instant coffee, and in the end explain that if you do have coffee machines at home, you can just make 2 espresso shots and substitute the coffee amount and a bit of the liquid with the coffee shots. So I think those are the only tips. I hope you guys enjoyed the recipe, and if you make it, just tag us, Mex Mundo, and let us know what you thought about it. Thank you.